Welcome back, crew. It's April, and we are diving into a new game of the month, Chaosium's very own Call of Cthulhu 7th edition, one of the titans in the tabletop RPG space. And we're going to be getting into one of my favorite part of learning any new system. We're going to be doing a step-by-step walkthrough of building our PC. Cool thing with this one is you're actually going to get to see this PC played out live in action because we're doing this a little bit different than our typical games of the month. Usually I'm on the GM side of the table, but this time I'll be a player. I'll be running Miles, a PC we're going to go through step by step in a minute. And we're going to see him played out with another game master, professional game master, taking my place to run us through the Call of Cthulhu system. We're going to be using Jacob from Start Playing. I've got his Start Playing link down in the description. Go check him out. I've seen fantastic reviews from him, and from our conversations, I'm super excited to dive into the adventure and see what eldritch horror craziness he has in store for me and the rest of my crew. So go check him out. Definitely check us out during the live play at April 27th to see Miles live in action, see Jacob kind of run the DM screen, and then also for a chance to win a free PDF copy of the Call of Cthulhu system so you can bring the Eldritch Horror right back to your table and experience a different side of the game. But let's get into it. This is my favorite part of any TTRPG. I feel like this is the best way to learn a system, whether you're going to be the game master or the player. It shows you what's important to the system, how to roll the dice, what kind of what it respects, and what things you need to do to kind of really fit yourself into the system's mythos. So we're going to do that today and show you how we're building Miles. And as we get going too, Miles, kind of what I was imagining for Miles is a fast talking 1930s style detective. He's definitely willing to cut corners. Got some personal tragedy behind him that he tries to bury with games of chance, gambling, horses, betting the horses, running policy numbers, all that. Is anything he can do to distract himself from the loss he's suffered. But when he's on, he's a very charismatic guy. He's a detective. He's good at spotting little clues and listening to people to figure out their motives. He's definitely little proficient with his trusted 41 revolver too. We're gonna go through and build that out using the Call of Cthulhu skills and kind of get his statted out his attributes. So let's jump into it. So, cool thing, and I'll say this as we get going, for anybody that's watched my videos before, you know I always appreciate when they have a quick reference guide for building a PC. They've got a two-page quick reference guide, super helpful. I appreciate them for doing so because it just makes game masters' life easier. They can print this off and hand it to their players, and players' life easy to do so. And my life easier when I can just have a quick reference to go back to as I'm taking notes for my videos. So appreciate you guys for that. But it basically gives you how to roll your stats. So with this one, the rules as written recommended method is to go through and roll your stats one by one. And for three of them, actually four of them, your strength, constitution, dexterity, your power, and your appearance. Take a minute there. You're going to roll just straight 3d6 and then times those by five. For your size, intelligence, and education, you're going to roll 2d6 and then plus six. So keeps it pretty easy on that side. And then just kind of a quick run through. I'll give you a little bit of a Miles background here. We rolled a 60 or 13 for strength, giving him a 65 total. And with all these two, your modifiers are going to be between 15 at the low end and 90 at the high end. And we're going to go into what those attributes mean too. But for him, he got 65 in strength. His highest was size, 75, so he's a big guy. He's powerful mind too, 65 there. Education 60, which will see his high school level, which fits for his job and time period. And then so on and so on. His lowest one was dexterity as a 30, but the rest were kind of in between that 75 and 30 mark for the other stats. So keeps it easy on that side. And before we move on, I want to give you a little bit of a breakdown of what these stats mean, because in abstract, you're kind of it's hard to say what it does on this side. So let's go to page 37 in the PDF, which gives you a breakdown of the different stats and where you fall for each attribute. So for our guy, he got a 65 in strength. So 50 is average human strength. So he's a big guy. He's above average strength. And you see, if you roll a 15, you'd be puny and weak. And you can't go above 90, but for starting stats, but if you do kind of continue to enhance your stats as you play along, if you survive the Elder Tours enough, you can get up to 99 World Class Olympic. That's the human maximum for his 99. And then other things too, you get to see your appearance. I'll pick on size, so he's got a 75 there. So just below 80 there. So he'd be pretty tall. I'm gonna imagine him tall, muscular, definitely kind of got a big linebacker style feel to him, especially with his dexterity being pretty low. He's not gonna be the most nimble guy on the block. So that's just kind of a quick run through of his stats there. Let's dive into the next section and go over some of the attributes that are tied to, or some of the stats that are tied to your attributes. So, other attributes. You for your damage bonus, which is going to be applied to a couple of the attacks that you do. You're going to add your strength plus your size. So our strength was 65, our size was 75. So adding those together, we're going to be at 140, which is going to put us at 1d4 additional. So if we made a brawl attack, we'd add whatever our brawl was plus 1d4 to the damage. Keeps it easy there. For hit points, you go through and add your constitution plus your size. So our size was 75. Our constitution was I forgot what our constitution was. Let me look that up real quick. Our constitution was 60. So adding those together, that's 135. And with that, you're going to divide by 10. And basically, so that'll be 13. And with that one, you round down on it. So he'll have a 13 HP for this character. The last thing you determine is your movement. So that's going to be your if your dex or if your strength are lower than your size, you're going to have a 7. So our dex was 30, our strength was 65, our size was 75. So we're going to be at that 7 mark. The last big thing I will mention before we move on from attributes, and you kind of saw it in the movement section, but age plays a pretty big part in your Call of Cthulhu PC. And from the rules, you can start anywhere from a young teenager all the way down to 80-year-old, or 89-year-old, I should say, for taking in the Elder Chores. So for our guy, we're going to put him at 20 to 39 years old. What that allows you to do is make an improvement check for your education. The way they do an improvement check is you're going to roll your percentile dice, so the D100, and if you roll above it, you get to add an extra 1d10 to it. So we had 60 high school education for him, and we rolled a 35, so we don't get to have an extra bonus for it. But I think that fits for kind of currently where he's at on that side. So let's dive back to our quick start page. So we've determined our attributes. We've made our age section on that as well. So we've went through our derived attributes as well for it. Got our move rate going. So we already got through step 3 there too. Now 4 is we're going to go through and pick our occupation and our skills. So occupation, we're going to go through and take a look at some of these sample occupations here. And we're going to kind of break down exactly what that's going to do for us. So I wanted him to be a detective, kind of a 30s smooth talking detective with a that kind of is not afraid to cross the line there. So we're going to highlight this section. This is going to determine a couple big things for our guy. So this gives us our professional skills. So these are going to be skills that kind of make up what kind of be his core skills and make up what he does every day. So with this, we get to pick between arts and crafts for acting or disguise. We pick disguise for him. He's gonna be some of the guy. He's a big guy, kind of hard to disguise himself, but he tries. He picks. We get firearms. We get law. Listen, which makes sense. You're gonna be able to detective to listen and kind of tell people are BSing you. For the interpersonal skills, we chose fast talk. I wanted it to be like a 30s fast talking guy. For our campaign, usually it's 20s is when the Call of Cthulhu mythos is set in for this. But for our guy, for the Jacob set for our era, will be like late 1930s. It's not too much of a difference, but a little bit of a difference there. And then so we got that, the fast talk. We've got psychology, which makes sense. You got to understand your perps to be able to figure out what they're doing. Then you've got spot hidden to look for those little clues. And then you get to pick another skill, which we picked track for our guy. So we got all those pieces. With our credit rating, we could start at a bottom floor of 20, but can go all the way up to 50. And you can add some of your starting at professional points into this. We're going to give 10 points to this, as a little sneak preview there, to put us at a 30 for our financial score, our credit score. After that, This is going to determine how many points when we get to our occupational skill points that we have to spend for our guy. So for this, you do education times two. So we've got 100, or we've got 60 education points times two. That'll be 120. And our choice of dexterity or strength times two. Dexterity was 30. That's terrible. Our strength was 65. So we're going to times that by two. We get 130. All together, we add those in. We've got 250 professional points to spend on our guy. Before we move on to kind of talking about our skills, we're going to go back to the determine occupation section because that's actually going to, or sorry, our decide to allocate skills section because we've got our occupation figured out. The last thing we have to figure out is our personal interest, which you can use to either enhance some of the skills we've already got from our occupation or pick different skills that aren't on that list. And with that, you have a number of points equal to your intelligence times two. So our intelligence for Miles what was that? 55. So we have 110 points to spend on our personal skills. So now that we've got those figured out, let's dive into the skills for our guy. So skills are pretty well done in the system. Makes it easy. Quick thing look at we'll try to go through as we go before we go into the actual skill allocations. Just a little bit of a breakdown. Remember, Call of Cthulhu is a D100 system. So you're going to be rolling those D100s, and you're going to want to roll at or below your skill for it to be successful. If it's higher than your skill, you will fail. So you see, if you're 1 to 5%, you're a novice, complete amateur at it, all the way up to 90%, you're a master at it, master in your craft. Uh, so with that, you definitely want to kind of bump your good skills up to acceptable level. I'm putting most of his skills, I think his highest is 70, 75. So professional. We want to show that he's kind of good at the skill, but definitely wanted to have enough so I can spread him around and make him kind of well-rounded. With that too, so we've gone through how the skills look. In our mechanic videos, you can go a little bit more in depth to how you roll and pushing and some of the additional attributes that go along with it. But let's pick on one of the skills I want him to have for sure. Fast talk. So you see that has 0.5 or 0.5%, I'd say. So that's your baseline level for it. So you can only build up from there. So I want to put a good bit of skill into the fast talking because I want him to really be able to talk his way out of most jams. So we're going to put 65 points of attributes into that, bumping up to 70. So if he rolls a 70 or below, he's successful. There's different ways you can modify those rolls on the difficulty too, which we'll go into our mechanics video as well. Cool thing with this, and I should mention before, is that it's a 1-to-1. So if you spend 1 point to bump that percentage up, it's just one. So out of our 250, we spent 70 there to make him good at fast talking. We spent a good bit on the firearms too with the pistol to make it so he can shoot his weapon pretty well. We spent a good bit on first aid for his personal skills and kind of go through there and select what's important to him just so we could go through and build a well-rounded PC that fits our detective fast talking motive. So now that we've got that, we're going to take, before we go into equipment, we're going to take a quick look at the personality section and kind of what comes along with that. So they've got some cool pieces too that help you build out your guy. You get to go through some of these you can roll for, some of these you can choose. So physical description, we're going to pick rugged. He's a big guy. He's got kind of a rugged look. Definitely, he's got like a nice suit, but he's kind of his exteriors belie that with kind of rugged. He's definitely looks like he's been through some stuff. Then you get to pick their ideology or beliefs. You could roll a d10 if you'd like to. I decided to pick these ones out. I wanted to have a little bit more control on it. So for him, I picked money is power. I'm going to get all I can. He's a detective, but he lost something most dear to him and has gone a little bit crooked since that's gone through. He's just tried to get as much money as he can to gamble it away again. So significant people of this one. This is kind of a cool one there. So I picked four. He had a child named Olivia. Uh, but we're gonna see. So we got the significant people. Tied to the significant people is why this person is significant to you. As I mentioned, he's lost something. So we picked feeling of regret. Fortunately, while he's working one of his cases, one of his enemies got to Olivia and his wife and unfortunately, they were not able to survive. And he's kind of pushed himself to dedicate himself to his job and finding different ways to earn some credit so he could draw the sorrow and gambling and other vices that he may pursue. So now that we've got that in, we've got a meaningful location. Another 1d10 you could roll. I picked, where is it? Grave of Olivia. That's going to be kind of where he spends his time with something meaningful to him. And then finally, you've got a treasured possessions. We're kind of sticking on that Olivia theme there. We're going to give him a locket that has the picture of Olivia inside of it. Sweet. So we've got that in there. Last big thing on this side is your rates. So I picked Gambler for him and Risk Taker. He's definitely one of the guys that's going to try to fast talk his way out of bad situations. And when he can't fast talk, he's going to pull that pistol and start blasting. So we'll see how well that puts him against some of the eldritch horrors we can expect in the system. But I'm very interested to see how he does it. But those are the core attributes there. Last thing I'll mention before we move on to equipment is the key background connections. So this is something that you could put in there so they encourage your keepers, I should say keepers instead of GMs for this system, to go through and kind of work your backstories in and try to target pieces of them, either killing NPCs from them or putting them in jeopardy. You can something as your key background criteria. And what that means is like the game or the keeper would have to work with you if they want to bring it into the story or do it harm or sever it from your PC if they wanted to, and tie some roles to it as well. So I didn't, because Olivia's dead already. So I didn't have anything in my head that I wanted to be kind of immutable for it. So his is going to be kind of an open book there. So now we've got that, we're going to go into equipping our investigator. As I mentioned, we put 10 points from our professional score into our credit rating or our credit, not credit rating. That's so weird to call it credit rating. But with that, we're going to be average, which fits for a detective in our time. So with that, we're going to have some accommodations. We'd either have an average home or apartment. We would travel. If it was modern period, we'd have a car. It's not modern period, so we most likely won't have a car there. But it's going to calculate a couple big things for us. We're going to go through and figure out our cash, our spending level, as well as our assets. Cash is simple, it's just the cash you have on hand at the start of the campaign, liquid cash. Assets are things like your house, you may have a car, different things that are kind of big that you may already own. You could work with your GM too for some starting equipment that may fall into your kind of that line as well. And then the last piece is your spending level, basically what you could spend without or what kind of what things you could buy without having to spend cash. So let's go to our guys, the little chart, and I'll show you how that works for our guy with the spending limit as well. So we have 30. So we're going to do CR2, or credit rating, so 30 times 2. So 60. So we start with 60 cash. For that too, we could start 60 times 50 on that side. So we start with 1500 ish. I think I did the math wrong there, but in assets. And then our spending level is $10. So anything below at or below $10, we can just say we don't have to spend our cash on it. Don't go crazy with this, players. So don't. They basically say if you abuse it, your GM can roll it back. So just make sure to kind of do it when it makes sense and kind of use it sparingly but effectively, if that makes sense. So now that we got that, we're going to go through and equip our guy out. So let's go to the 1920s equipment section. As I said, our game's going to be in the 30s, but there's not going to be too much difference between the 20s and the 30s there. Makes it easy. So he's a detective. I imagine him wearing a suit. I didn't like. I should have googled a little bit more of the differences between these suits. I've put him in a little bit of a cheaper suit. He's a detective. He's an average salary, so I put him in the mohar suit. I figured that kind of fit his style. He's gonna have a little bit of a hat there too, and an overcoat that goes over it with him as well. But definitely a working class guy. With that too, I wanted him. He's a cop or a detective, I should say. So I gave him a flashlight, which is the electric torch here, which is 240 below his $10 threshold, as well as some handcuffs, a police whistle. So he can kind of grab people's attention if he needs to. And then finally, we went to the weapons section. I gave him some brass knuckles. He's definitely he doesn't want to carry a billy club with his suit, so he's got the brass knuckles in case he needs to beat some sense into a perp. And then I Googled what the common pistol for a cop in that period. and the 41 revolver came up. So we bought him a 41 revolver and some ammunition. You see that 41 revolver does 1d10's worth of damage. You can shoot 1 to 3 rounds per combat. But don't worry, our mechanics video is going to go into how combat works in the system. So come through Saturday for that. Well, yeah, that's the core steps. Let's go back to our little page on that side. So we've got our gear and equipment. I don't know who my other players or my other crew is going to be building for their investigators, so we don't need to worry about that. When we're done, we've built Miles. So let me show you what that'll look like for the active character sheet. So definitely recommend utilizing the official character sheet because it helps you save in some math. I was worried I did not feel like dividing all of these when I went through, but luckily it does it for you. So you see our attributes in there, you put it in. Let's delete this one out. So we go back in, throw 65 in there, and it tells you what the half would be, as well as what a fifth would be, and just makes your life easier. So definitely put that in, and it does it for all of the rest of the scores too. You see, as we went through and allocated our stuff, I wanted to be a fast talker, so we've got our 70 there. I wanted to be proficient with firearms with his handguns, so we got 60 there. First aid too for one of his personal skills. He's got a decent application of the law. He's not a lawyer. He's not a scholar. He just kind of brings the perps in when he's told to. But he's very good at analyzing, or he's decent at analyzing people's psychology, and very good at spotting hidden things, as well as listening people to hear when they're uh, maybe telling them a lie or kind of running them through the gamut. You see, I put in some of his other weapons too, his brass knuckles, his revolver. Still need to figure out to put in a few more pieces for his revolver there, but you see how that looks in the system. See our ideologies, our different pieces on this side of his backstory. It just gives you a run through of everything that went into building Miles. So that was a quick look at how to build a PC with the Call of Cthulhu system. Definitely a pretty straightforward on that side. The biggest thing is getting used to rolling those D100s and rolling below those attributes. So definitely make sure as you're going through with your skills, stack them high and stack things that fit your profession and kind of the PC that you want to build. Definitely too, we went through and rolled our attributes the way they described, but they do have variant roles. I know some people don't like to go through step by step and roll. Sometimes they may have a character concept going in. We do have point buy as an option, but they also have where you can kind of go through and roll them, roll the attributes, roll the d6s for the attributes, and then go through and assign them to the different attributes. So work with your game master, your keeper, I should say, and see what works best for you in your table. But thanks everybody for hanging out as I build Miles. Make sure to come through Thursday, April 27th for the live play to get to see Miles in action. Hopefully, he gets to survive a little bit of the Eldritch horrors to await him. And then definitely make sure to give yourself a chance to win a free PDF copy of the system. So come through for that. Also, check out Jacob's Let's Start Play. I'm looking forward to him. He has some great reviews, and I want to see. Hopefully, some other people get to experience him live in action there too. Before we go, drop some of your favorite builds and Call of Cthulhu in the comments. Love to hear those. I love to kind of see what people have done with the system. And as always, like, subscribe. Each month we pick a different game of the month. Call of Cthulhu is our one for this month. They come through next week for our mechanics videos as well as our sanity breakdown. But thanks for joining us, and till next time, everybody.